Have you ever had a great idea while almost drowning? One man in Japan did it every single day. His name is Dr. Nakamatsu. He wore a superhero cape, smiled with confidence, and claimed to have over 3,500 inventions, from the floppy disk to a cancer-fighting toilet to a spray that makes people smarter. Many people said he was crazy, but he believed craziness is the path to genius. He didn't want fame. He was chasing something even stranger. I count every breath before an idea comes, but I never know which breath will be my last. "5 years old. Most kids play tag, eat candy, or cry to their moms for new toys. But not Yoshiro Nakamatsu. This boy built a gravity adjuster for his toy airplane. Yes, really, a gravity adjuster. At 5 years old, he said the tool would help the plane fly straight in the air. And the craziest part? It worked. His mom just stared. His dad said nothing, then sipped his tea. Maybe they didn't understand. But Yoshiro did. If I can fix a toy, he thought, maybe I can fix the world. From the beginning, Yoshiro was different. While other kids watched cartoons, he watched water flow, counted rock angles, or took apart clocks to find out what made them tick. His bedroom looked like a mini lab, full of wires, old tools, and pieces of who knows what. To him, it was paradise. He believed in one simple thing: never copy others. Life is too short to be normal, and he meant it. At age 14, his mom had trouble pouring soy sauce from a big bottle into a small one. She spilled it, got frustrated. The kitchen smelled like salty disaster. Yoshiro didn't panic. He didn't even talk. He just smiled and disappeared into his room. All night, he worked. The next morning, he returned with a tiny glass tube and rubber pipe. "Here, Mom, try this." The tool? A siphon pump. And it worked perfectly. Soon, families all across Japan were using it in their kitchens. But no one knew who made it. And Yoshiro? He didn't care, as long as his mom smiled while cooking. That was enough. Now about school? Let's just say, school didn't know what to do with someone like Yoshiro. He didn't like multiple choice questions. Sometimes he would write his own answer. This problem is better solved using fluid dynamics and a little bit of intuition. His classmates were confused. His teachers? Exhausted. But Yoshiro kept going. He started a personal notebook called Life Formula, where he wrote down everything: how many steps he took each day, the best times to eat and sleep, even the ideal way to smile during conversation. He treated life like an experiment, not to be perfect, but to live longer, better, and smarter. He eventually got accepted into the University of Tokyo, majoring in engineering. But no, he wasn't a normal student. He spent more time in the library than in class, reading old texts, scribbling crazy diagrams, and checking if his latest idea had ever existed before. One quiet night, when the library was nearly dark, Yoshiro pulled out a big sheet of paper. He wrote one sentence in bold. Invention number 1. A better world starts with a better idea. No one saw it. No applause. Just Yoshiro, a desk lamp, and a future no one believed in yet. He looked at the paper, then up at the dark window, and he smiled, as if saying to the world, "This is just the beginning." Then he whispered softly to himself, "If this is only the start, what will I discover next underwater?" Everyone has their own way to find ideas. Some people drink coffee, some go for a walk, others wait for the right mood. But Yoshiro Nakamatsu, he had a method that was far from normal and deep underwater. No, that's not a metaphor. He really dove into his private pool to find ideas. Not since childhood, not as a teenager. He started using this underwater method when he was an adult, around the age of 40 or 50. At that time, he felt the world was too noisy, and his mind needed a quieter space to think clearly. And strangely, he kept doing this even into his old age, even after being diagnosed with prostate cancer. When the world gets too loud, he said, I go to the quietest place inside my own mind. But to enter it, I have to go underwater first. And his pool wasn't a regular pool. He called it the cerebral pressure chamber. Inside, he couldn't hear anything from the outside. The lights were soft, and the only thing he saw was water shining around him. The air pressure was carefully controlled to help his brain enter what he called the eureka zone, a moment when inspiration comes right before the brain runs out of oxygen. No oxygen tank, no life jacket, just one thing, a waterproof writing board. Not to practice swimming, but to write new invention ideas, while almost out of breath. Yes, really. The human brain is most creative 0.5 seconds before death, he said. That's when big ideas are born. At first, it sounded crazy, but Dr. Nakamatsu believed it completely. He said that when the body feels panic from low oxygen, the brain thinks faster, more clearly, and more honestly. In that pressure, the outside world disappears. All that's left is you and your idea. And the results? Some of his weirdest and maybe most important inventions were born from that pool. Floppy disk. Dr. Nakamatsu said the original idea for electronic data storage came to him during a diving session in the 1950s. IBM later released and patented the version we know today, but he insisted they printed it. I gave birth to it. Cancer-detecting toilet. A toilet with sensors that could read the sound and shape of your waste. He believed, from that, we can understand your internal health. Has it been proven? Not yet, but he believed in it 100%. Love Jet Spray. A spray perfume he claimed could make romantic relationships stronger. The formula? Secret. Strong love needs chemical signals. I just help you send them. Anti-slip sandals. They looked like regular sandals, but the soles were slightly tilted and had tiny vibrations that activated when you lost balance. And here's the fun part. Dr. Nakamatsu said these sandals were inspired by cats. Have you ever seen a cat slip and fall? Almost never, he said. Cats always know where their body is. They adjust their center of gravity immediately. He believed humans could learn the same reflex. How? Not with yoga, but with sandals. The sandals would help your body react to danger faster, even before your brain notices it. Did it actually work? Hard to say, but if you wore the sandals and still slipped, well, maybe blame your cat. Cerebrex pen, a pen filled with information energy ink. Each stroke of writing, he said, could improve memory. Yes, even writing your grocery list could train your brain. Scene after scene in his pool became a daily ritual. The only man in the world who dove underwater. Not to swim, but to search for the future. Water became his sacred space, and his writing board a birthplace of history. His assistant often stood nearby, nervous, because every time he went underwater, there was always a small chance he wouldn't come back up. One afternoon, Dr. Nakamatsu stayed under longer than usual. When he finally surfaced, his face was pale. His eyes were red, his breathing weak, but he was smiling. I saw it, he said softly. The greatest invention of my life. His assistant rushed to him. What is it, sir? Should I write it down now? But Dr. Nakamatsu only laughed gently. Not yet. The world isn't ready. And then, without another word, he dove back in. Can all his inventions be proven by science? No. Do they all make perfect sense? Not really. But one thing is sure, he believed, completely. And that belief was louder than the people who laughed at him. I don't need everyone to believe now. Just wait. When the world finally catches up, I'll already be decades ahead. Maybe we laugh today. Maybe we think he's crazy. But don't forget, many of the things we use now were once called impossible. From the outside, the house looked just like a normal building on a quiet street in Tokyo. White walls, a short fence, and nothing that said, "A genius lives here." But once you stepped inside, everything changed. Not because of magic, but because of Dr. Nakamatsu's logic. The first step brought you into a front room. No soft couch, no paintings. Instead, a giant whiteboard covered in scribbles, circuits, strange symbols, and sketches of thinking shoes. To the right, a tall shelf held hundreds of prototypes, each marked only with numbers, not names. Names limit ideas, he once said. Numbers are free. Even the wall clock ticked backward. Big ideas don't come from the future, he smiled. They come from the past, the part we still don't understand. In the dining room, the table was made of shiny metal. Light bounced off it in perfect angles. He believed the reflections could boost happy hormones. Underneath, there were soft vibrations. To heal a broken heart, he claimed. Even the spoons weren't normal. They were shaped to follow the flow of energy in your hand. One chair was always left empty. That's where the idea sits, he whispered. At first, it all sounded like a joke. But when you saw his calm face and excited eyes, you started to wonder. Maybe we're the ones who can't understand. Then came the bathroom. In the center stood a shiny red toilet with secret sensors under the seat. It could read the shape and sound of your body's waste. According to him, it could even detect early signs of cancer. It was built not with space tech, but with care and intuition, fitted exactly to his own body. Every human is different, he said, so the toilet must understand you. Then we visited the bedroom. Forget soft beds and cozy lights. The walls were silver. The air was controlled to give the perfect balance of oxygen and humidity. He called it the sleep optimization room. For hours of sleep here, he said, felt like 8. Even the pillow had sensors to check if your dreams were happy or stressful. We moved upstairs in a small elevator. At every meter, it whispered things like, "You are brilliant. Keep going, genius." The light was soft, shining only downward, like guiding you toward a new idea. At the top was his favorite room, the thinking sanctuary. No windows, no sound, only a big desk, and quiet. Dozens of boards covered in notes. Organized by the year, he created the idea. He also kept a strange journal, photos of every meal he ever ate, notes on sleep, heartbeats, and even the color of his morning emotion. Even the hand-washing sink had a secret. The water, he claimed, was exposed to special light. Spiritual cleansing, he called it. Before thinking, he washed his hands to make his thoughts pure. In a glass cabinet nearby hung one of the weirdest items in the house. A superhero cape, shiny silver with sharp edges and a radar-shaped hood. Not for cosplay, but for deep thinking. He called it his maximum concentration cape. When you dress like a hero, he said, your brain starts to believe you are one. Whenever he wore it, the house went silent. Assistants stopped talking. Alarms were turned off. He sat, the cape gently moving with hidden fans in the floor, staring at his boards, as if speaking to the future. To him, life itself was the most important experiment. And this house, with its wires, strange machines, and wild ideas, was his laboratory to find a formula for perfect life. Of course, not everyone understood. Some guests felt nervous, some even scared, because this house wasn't made for comfort. It was built to challenge the world. This house has given me 2,300 ideas, he once said. But the next house might give me immortality. At the end of the tour, just when you thought you'd seen everything, he smiled and said, there's still many rooms I can't show you. The world isn't ready yet. Then, quietly, he walked away, through a hidden door behind the bookshelf, into a secret room where no camera could follow. And we're left with one big question. Was this really a house? Or a time machine quietly working in the dark? Time. For most people, it is a straight line that moves only forward. But for Dr. Yoshiro Nakamatsu, time is just a variable, and variables can be changed. In 2005, inside a quiet doctor's office that smelled of antiseptic, he received news that could break anyone. Advanced prostate cancer. 1 year left to live. Most people would sit in silence, feel shocked, or start counting the days. Dr. NakaMats looked straight ahead, gave a small smile, and said, 1 year? No, I will live until I'm 144. Not a random number. 144, he said, was the optimal age for a perfect human. For him, it wasn't just hope, it was a research target. From that day, he started a war against death in a way no ordinary person would think of. No chemotherapy, no radiation. He believed the body could be reprogrammed, and he would be the one to write that program. His diet was designed like a research project. Every meal was photographed, the exact time was recorded, even his emotion while chewing. His bedroom, silver walls, oxygen control, perfect humidity was designed to make his cells forget they were aging. Every morning, he still dove into his private pool, holding his breath until the outside world disappeared, then wrote ideas on a waterproof board. He measured his heartbeat, body temperature, and emotional color every day. For him, his body was not a patient, it was the most valuable laboratory he had. This body doesn't belong to the doctors. This body belongs to my ideas. What surprised everyone was that, in the middle of a life-or-death fight, he didn't hide from the public. He actually appeared on Japanese TV even more often, not as a patient, but as a star. He sat on talk shows wearing his silver superhero cape, pulling anti-slip sandals out of his bag, presenting them like a scientist at a podium. While making the whole studio laugh, he appeared on variety shows, dancing a little on stage, then talking about his cancer-detecting toilet with a completely serious face. The audience was confused. Were they watching a scientist or a comedian? But that was his strength. If I can make you laugh while you think, I've already won. Behind the scenes, his war never stopped. He wrote, tested, and updated his body data every single day. He said it was not only for himself, but for everyone who believed life could be extended. Once, in an interview, a young reporter asked, "Sensei, you're now 87 years old. Aren't you afraid your time is running out?" Dr. NakaMats stayed silent for a moment. His eyes looked up at the DNA-shaped lamp hanging from his ceiling. Then he spoke softly but firmly. "I have made 3,500 inventions. I still have 6,000 more on my list. I'm not finished, so I will not die." And somehow, the reporter believed him. The days passed. His body was not as strong as before. His steps were slower, but his eyes still had the same light, the light of someone thinking about the next big idea. Maybe he would never truly win against time, but every second he stole back was his own victory. And behind the curtain of his house, maybe right now, he is still working, still writing something, still testing one more strange device, or maybe still making a plan to never die. Behind the shiny silver cape he wears on TV, behind the whiteboards full of scribbles, and behind the thousands of patents he claims, there is another side of Yoshiro Nakamatsu that the world rarely sees. Not as an inventor, not as a celebrity, but as a husband, a father, a man who, in the end, is just as human as all of us. That evening, he sat at the round dining table in his home, a table he says can reflect the light of happiness. Across from him, his wife sat quietly, looking at him with warmth and a little tiredness. She rarely appears in public, but without her, maybe all of her husband's wild ideas would never exist. He's always busy, but that's his way of loving the world, she said softly. Their children grew up with a father who never really came home from work. A father who could suddenly leave dinner to write down an idea in his notebook. Sometimes they admired him. Sometimes they got annoyed. But they all knew one thing. Life with a father like this was never boring. That night, his grandchildren were running around the table, laughing while holding his happiness vibration spoon. Dr. NakaMats smiled, then said, "If I could, I would make a machine to repeat this dinner. Again and again." For a moment, the room was silent. His wife simply patted his hand, as if she understood the meaning behind his words. A few days later, an old friend came to visit. They spent hours talking about their youth, inventions, and everything that had changed. Then the friend asked, "Yoshiro, what are you most afraid of?" He stayed quiet for a long time, his eyes looking at the corner of the room where his superhero cape was hanging. Finally, he said, "Not death. What I fear is the world stopping its dreams after I'm gone." Late at night, when everyone else was asleep, the light in his study was still on. He wrote quickly in his new notebook, as if chasing something invisible. When he was done, he closed the notebook, put it on the highest shelf, and looked straight at the camera. "The next one is for the world, but not today." He turned off the light and left the room. The camera stayed, watching the door close slowly. And maybe behind that door, he is still working, still designing something, still testing one more strange device, or maybe still making a plan to live forever. If you've made it this far, it means you've walked with us through the amazing life of Dr. NakaMats, from his strange inventions, his wild rituals, to his very human side that is rarely shown. If this story made you smile, amazed, or even curious, tell us in the comments. We can talk and share ideas about his genius together. And if you want to support this channel, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you won't miss the next story about other incredible inventors. See you in the next video.